welcome back to Real Chat TV. Before we went for the break, you were talking about the reasons, some of the reasons why you personally went into a gang, became a gang member, and you were you gave two major reasons as your personal circumstance, then your environment.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at this analysis or analogy because this is a real. We need to keep it real. As if you're growing up in a single parent household and a mom or a dad. A single parent can be either the mother or the father. But if it's just one parent who is paying bills for two people, you know, we are talking about rent or mortgage, electricity, water, gas, food, you name it. And just one parent is paying all of that. And probably she's got 2 or 3 children. So realistically, even though it can be done, even though other parents are doing it, it's just impossible, really, for the parents to be at work for 8 hours, come home, cook, clean, attend all the parents' evening, help the child with the homework, coursework, see what the child is doing, see what internet program the child is on. It's not possible, even though it can be done. Yeah. You know, so the parents can be, I don't know, a pastor or a politician or whoever, and the parents can give the child all the proper training and directions and guidance or whatever. But if the environment is not conducive or environment is not helping, and the parent is not there, because you're not there, she's working and she has to work. So we're not even putting the blame on the parent, and she has to work. So then again, this is a child who is not matured to make informed decisions.
100%.
So I'm just weighing the environment and the personal circumstance of the child. Which one takes precedence over the other?
Well, see, for me, like I said, you see, if you're taking it initially to the beginning, it's like, first and foremost, most young people you would find in these circumstances, when you speak to their parents, or you analyze their parents or the home, you realize there's a lot of psychological issues that's happening in the home. In its own self, you know, and that's why I said that when I speak of environment and circumstance, it's not necessarily just about, okay, you live on this estate, because I had people that lived on estates that still didn't find themselves within this circumstance. But there are a lot of factors, you know, but obviously everything comes from somewhere. There's always a root to something, you know. So, for example, you might have one child who his mother, for example, hasn't got a father there. The lack of fatherhood, father figures is a major part. That's a fact. That's a major reason.
Especially for the boy child.
90% of my friends growing up never had a father, and that found himself. The ones that did have a father figure around them who was consistently there, did not really have to go down the road we went down. So that's one major factor I would definitely...
The male figurehead.
The male figurehead, that's consistently there. Not just a figurehead there, but consistently in the child's life. One of the other also key factors, so for example, you might have one home where there's a single parent mother, the mother herself has not even grown, you know. She's had a child when she's 16. She doesn't even know her own self yet. Let alone how to become a parent. So now you're having this person in many ways is unprofessional, having to do a major job of now raising a child. When it comes to principles, morals, they don't know what to tell that child, because they don't even have none themselves, because why they have not been taught none themselves, you know. So now there's a child that's growing up with no morals. It's just it's vulnerable and a victim to any circumstances they're around. They could turn out good or bad, but the fact that they're living in a bad environment now, they're easily just sucked and become a product of their environment. Whereas if they had that strong guidance, even if they were in a bad circumstance or environment, they could have still been guided to a right place. So once again, there you have that. Then you have parents that they might provide, you go to the home, it's comfortable, but there's no real love, you know. There's no real time to sit. And you see, love is a major factor that when I was growing up, I realized that the lack of love in these young people's life, it's so unreal. And just by loving a child, what you're doing is that you're raising the value of that child, you know. Just like the stock market, the more focus, the more attention everyone gives one particular product or commodity, what happens? It raises its value. When the value raises, it costs more to purchase it, you know. So when a young person actually starts to realize that there's so much love and attention being given to me, they start to realize that I'm important.
Exactly.
So if I'm important now, and for example, being a female, and a guy comes and just tells me 1, 2 things, that's not going to be enough to get me to give me my pride, you know, and my joy, or my do you know what I mean, my special thing. If I'm a young man and I know that I know my value, no one can't tell me just go around the street and go and do something that I could end up in jail for life or kill, because I value myself. But because there's no love, real love and attention given to these young people, their value, just like back to the stock market, if there are items that no one's not patronizing, what happens to it? It loses value. Then what happens? There's no demand for it, and then it becomes practically worth nothing. So you have children now that are walking with no value.
That's true.
If something's worth nothing, then it can be easily influenced to anything, because it's a vulnerable, desperate existence, you know. So these are some of the factors that come into play. Now, obviously, when someone is vulnerable, anything is possible.
Anything goes,
Now you have people that are actually organized, you know. They have found themselves where they've gone up the chain. They need people to do certain things, so they look for the people that don't value themselves, and they become the perfect target for them.
And so advertisement is also
and you got to understand, I'm running a business. It's just like any company. If you're someone that doesn't care about, you know, there's some people, they come into this world and they're happy to just maybe do a 9 to 5 and be a labor for the rest of their life. So they're used by the companies.
That's true.
Low minimum wage income, they do a lot of work and they don't get no real rewards for it, and there's only a few people at the top who reward. So you see, the principles and cycles exist in every world. They don't, it's just about what world that you want to go in, and the rules are, but the fundamental factors exist everywhere. And I feel like this is what sometimes people are naive about, you know. We look at the underground world as if, or people on the streets as if it's this isolated world, but the principles, when you actually think about it, is no different to what most people live by every day. You know, the fact of the matter is, people want to make money. You have people that are about money, they're greedy, this is what they're about, and there's some people that are vulnerable due to circumstance, and they get used, you know, and everything else comes with it.
Wow. So so my understanding is like you've really narrowed it down, and I'm being educated here, so that's very good. So we've got like the single parent or the single mothers. Then not just the single mother, it depends on the age of the single mother herself. Then it depends on how informed the mother is. To be, of course, you can't pass out knowledge that you don't have. You can't pass on knowledge that you don't have. And not just because parents have to do 2 jobs so they can't physically be there for their children, but there are parents who are also there for the children, but they are not there. You can be there but not being there. Because if you can't come down to their level, especially we Africans from back home, because if you're trying to raise British children with African culture, there's a clash. You know, even the way we talk to them, like as you're saying, we put the children down, you amount to nothing, you can do nothing, you're lazy, you're that, you're ugly, you're this. So then again, if they go out, and if it's a girl and you meet her, oh, you're so hot, you're so good looking, because, and they don't have that male figure at home, they don't have that role model, and there are not enough role models, not even in our history books, even the history books that we've been taught at schools, that should have been taught at school. They are not, so there's nothing that they can actually identify to
give them value or to raise their...
So this is deeper than we thought. I think we have to have a second discussion about this, but let's come to you. Let's come to the turning point for you.
Solutions.
What happened? What was the turning point?
I think for me, I've been a strong-minded individual from young. I think God blessed me that way. I'm a strong believer in faith, and I've always been someone that believed that life is more than what it is in front of you, you know. And I guess God just blessed me that way, you know, and I'm very thankful and grateful for that, you know. And I realized at a young age that there's more to my life than the circumstance that I'm in. You know, back to speaking about value, and by doing that, I started asking questions, and by asking questions, I started to raise my value, you know. And the more I was raising my value, the more that I found that I didn't want to entertain certain things, because I felt like I'm above that, you know. Like, my life is worth more to me than to sell some drugs and end up in jail for life. Yeah. It felt pointless to me, or to get involved in an altercation and because of pride, or just saying, you know what, sorry, just leave it and care about my life, I would get myself killed. So I found that I could say sorry. Why? Not because I was scared, or because I thought the person was bigger than me, but because I valued myself enough to say that I don't need to entertain this situation any more than I need now. Do you see what I'm saying to you? So you see, I think it's a domino effect. Yeah, when you start to ask the right questions, or you start to get inspired by wanting more out of life, it takes its own course, and things start to reveal itself to you. And like I said, I was a strong believer, so I had a powerful spiritual journey within what I was going through with God, and God started to reveal a lot of things to me and showed me that there are many ways that I can take you to places. You have to trust me. And then I found myself having to make spiritual decisions that physically you wouldn't understand, you know. So people couldn't understand why, and I couldn't explain to you physically, but I knew it was a spiritual thing, and it had its knock-on effect, you know. And then what then I realized is that, well, what about those kids that don't get this blessing that God gave to me, or get that opportunity to get this realization? What happens to them? So then that inspired me to say, well, if God or the Holy Spirit or something above me has been able to open my eyes, let me use that same source that I have to open others' eyes.
Wow, that's good.
And then that started to inspire me down this journey of being able to open up to other people. But then I also realized that it's not a one-day thing.
No, it's not.
It's a never-ending journey. Yeah, and growth is always consistent. Yeah. So my biggest thing now, more than anything, was that I need to, the more I develop myself and I grow as a person, the more influence, because I realize we live in a society that a lot of young people are influenced by what they can see and what's happening, rather than just talk. Because I grew up around people that would just talk. But their life is different. They're trying to preach to me about changing their life, but then they'll ask me for £1. And there was no logic to it.
Yeah, the words don't match the actions.
Exactly. So that then is what I mean. But when you start this spiral, it's a journey of growth, and you just keep growing and growing and growing. So I would say, in a nutshell,
self-actualization.
Yes, and God. And for
without
me,
God, because
the power of, I know not everyone's religious, but everyone finds their own way to come. Some people, they'll have the first child, and when they've had their child, it gives them that.
That's it.
Do you know what I mean?
Point,
But for me, it was God. It was
so
God.
you just got up one day, just assess your life, reevaluate everything, and say, "What? I'm better than this. I'm going to do this, but I'm not just going to do it for me. You're going to help other children as well come up." And that is, wow, that's very commendable and inspiring as well. So that even though because there are so many people who are smoking, and even though it's written on the cigarette that smoking can kill, they are still smoking. But sometimes you sit them down, you talk to them and say, ooh. So I think for you to have that persistence, for you to have that fuel to keep you going, if you're a person of faith, this is not a religious program or anything, but I am from a Christian background, he's from a Christian background. So if you're a person of faith, whatever your faith is or whatever your belief is, I think there are certain things that you can actually do it by yourself, and you need some divine intervention. That's what he did, and that is why he's also helping other children, and that is good. So I mean, and we are running out of time, and we definitely have Divine back, because this is very intense. This is what we need. It's what is not being taught in the classrooms. That's not something that he read from a book. As I said, he's lived through it, so I think this is real. The title of this program is Real Chat. So we just want to know briefly, what are some of the signs, because our children, oh dear Lord, most of them have multiple personalities. They are one way in the house, they are another way outside. You would think they are holy, sanctimonious behavior. Some of them are daughters, they will wear mini skirts and you know what, under their clothes, put on a winter coat, long trousers. As soon as they get out, they change. So you cannot really vouch for anyone these days. We can't even vouch for our children anymore. So how can we know that our children have changed? How can we know that they are joining gangs or they're being initiated? What are some of the warning signs?
I think depending on how you've raised your child, but I mean, as a parent, you should have a very good relationship with your child. And if you never had a good relationship with your child, then I feel like you need to begin. That's the first point of contact, because that's children. But if you did have a good relationship with your child and you realise that your child's becoming distant away from you, you can't, they don't have interest in talking to you about certain things, or maybe just sitting there and spending like an hour with you anymore, you got to understand that their mind is gone somewhere else now. Now you need to understand, where is their mind gone? Yeah. You know, because obviously if you have got a good relationship with them, you would know what's going on, because you've built that rapport with them. You know, so I feel this is the reason why, because sometimes they need you, you know, but because of the communication barrier
and judgment, you know, this parental judgment and being a parent, some parents should be friends.
They they confine in others who don't have their best of interest, you know. And to be fair, some parents don't have their child's best interest because it's about their ego and about their achievement, and I mean, in the Ghana community, me buy you say, which is means in English, my child is going to this university. So it's more about them. And they don't realize the selfish approach, you know. But when you can love your child selfishly, you know, agape love is taught in the Bible, which is just like pure love, then it's not that difficult.
You don't compare them to other children.
Of course, you would see what's going on. It's your child. That child came from you. If something's changing, you will know. You know. But I would say communication. Be able to have a relationship with your child that, for whatever reason, they can come and talk to you. And if you're able to do that, you'll be able to identify anything.
Something is wrong.
But if you've lost that, then understand that they could be doing good or they could be doing really bad. There's no point in me saying to you, watch out for this and that, because you might watch out for the music they listen to, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're involved in a gang. But if you've lost that connection of a relationship with them, then you've lost. It doesn't matter. It's lost. So that's the key thing you need to gain back. Once you've gained that, you will then see, because why I'm saying that, because some children are very smart and very crafty. I remember when I used to sell drugs and I was making serious money. My mom didn't know what was going on. The most she would know is, this guy's going out of the house a bit too much. But other than that, I was very a calculated kid, that I could sit there with all my uncles and aunties come and play, hi, you're right, and do all that. And when it's time, as you would find that the most serious, dangerous ones lived that way, double life, you know. I've seen so many kids and they'll get stabbed and killed, and the parents will be like, he was never like this, he went to college, and I'm thinking, do you know this boy? Do you know what, do you understand? But because they've lost that connection, looking for signs is, for me, I don't think is as effective as having a relationship and just being real with you and your child.
But how realistic is it for a child to tell the mother that I'm in a gang? I mean, how realistic? I mean,
you got to understand that, like I said before, if you and your child talk every day, you've got a good rapport. If your child will start asking you particular questions initially in the first day, because you will see why, you know, unless you've not built a healthy environment or a healthy state, you know, if you've been growing up with your child and you've been teaching the child the right thing, you'd have been telling the child from early, like, you'll be seeing these things happening. So when that happens, this and that happens. So the first day they see that, they'll come and say, oh, mum, guess what? Today, you know what you was telling me about 5 days ago? Some girl came and, you know what she really said to me? She said, here's a secret, you know? Whoa! So that would give you an indication of, well, these people are starting to approach around her, you know, or him. True. You know, kids are they like to talk.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? They only stop talking when they feel like by talking they're going to get in trouble for it. But a natural instinct of a child is just to talk.
That's true.
So they will come and tell you, oh, guess what? You know this girl that I used to hang around with a lot? She started going to see this boy. I'm like, oh, is it? Oh, wow. So you would get that unless you've lost that relationship. You know, so by doing that, they will tell you what's going on. They might not necessarily tell you that they're doing it. They might tell you in a third or a second party voice. Do you know what I mean? But you will get a sign. Because if you're the person they talk to, they want to try and establish, what does this mean? Especially if you've told them in advance that this will happen.
So then it still comes back to parents educating themselves or being informed. Because if a parent doesn't have a clue, all she's doing is working day and night, building mansions in Africa or whatever, and the parent herself doesn't even know the signs of gang membership or pregnancy or bullying or all these issues that are affecting the youth, then they themselves, even career choices. There's so much things that are bothering the youth these days. I mean, so much. But if the parents themselves have lost focus and they don't even know, then they would, as you're saying, they would even be the best people to even advise the children, but they don't even know.
I mean, there's a saying, they say like when a tree starts to grow sideways in its early stages, you can tie a rope around it to grow straight. But once it gets to a certain stage, you can't change the direction of the rope.
True.
And it's the same with your child. You know, if you've had a child, the first thing you need to be already coaching your child into this reality of the world that we're living in. You know,
true.
teaching them about different perspective, poverty, you know, hardship. You have to get them raised, and as I said, it's principles and morals. If you teach a child about principles and morals, that would stay with them forever.
That's it.
To their own kids and their marriage. But if you leave them with none of that, then there is no barriers or differentiation to what's right and what's wrong, what to do and what not to do.
Wow.
So
that's good. So viewers, we're just gonna conclude. We just finished. So I think you've already delved into that. But so if parents suspect that our children are in gangs, or the children confide in us that they are in gang,
how do we go
about it?
I think first and foremost, just be a bit mindful of their environment that they go around. So a bit of monitoring, can help sometimes. But you can start lightly. You know, they're kids. You know your child. You know how to. Every child, their parents should know how to communicate and deal with that child. So, for example, if you allowed her out with a friend called, I don't know, Jessica, and every time she's gone out, she's come home late. You know what? I don't really like you going with Jessica for now. You know, these are basic, simple principles.
Baby steps,
So you start to realise that every time she's gone out, what is a different. You see, if you don't have communication system, then you don't start to see the triggers.
Exactly.
But if you're really close with her, you'll realise, okay, she went here today, she came back, and all of a sudden something's changed. Clearly, there must have been something that happened there. You know what? I'm cutting that out from now.
That's it.
Do you see what I'm saying? Exactly. So cutting it from the root from early. Do not let it spiral.
Exactly.
Because unfortunately, and as sad as it is, sometimes when it gets to a certain level, the only way is by them feeling. You know, and that's the sad truth. This is real talk, and I'm not gonna. That's my perspective anyway. You know, as I said, when a tree gets to certain direction, so your best bet is to try and cut it from early. And like I said, it's down to communication. But yes, when you do see early signs, try and identify the source and cut it.
Okay.
And that's the first step of getting them. And then by talking to them, you know, if, for example, they were always out late, start finding something else, alternative routes
for them to do.
Don't just leave them at home and imprison them. You're not going there full stop. No. Use a bit of strategy. You know what? Every Thursday, when you was going to Jessica's house now, there's some new event. Invest in something like there's something not going on there. I want to start letting you go there on that Thursday. So all of a sudden, they might have a bit of a battle, but once they've gone and they find that energy can be transferred there and they can find enjoyment, then it's gone. But if you leave them isolated and say you're not going there full stop, stay in your room looking at four walls, you're going to depress them, and the first opportunity they get, they're going to go back to where they found that joy.
Just run away
so
from home,
find alternative joys in areas that they're finding that's not benefiting their life. Okay. If that makes sense.
Okay, so if that doesn't work, or if all else fails, is there any point that a parent can actually go to the police and tell the police that, look, I think my child, not just based on mere assumption or suspicion, but if there's actually evidence that your child is a gang member, you've seen evidence in the child's room.
How you got to ask yourself that? What does that do? What say the police come and they put them in prison? You're only putting them even into deeper people that are even more involved. How is that? All that's done is just exempt you out of the situation, relieve the responsibility out of your hands, and saying, you know what, I'm washing my hands away. And on top of washing, if you was going to wash your hands, you might as well wash him and let him go. Why then go on top of washing your hands, make it even worse for him? How is that saving him? There are many people that go into jail and come out even more criminals. So, for me personally, I don't see why that's a viable option. Some people turn to pastors. I mean,
whatever way.
For some,
and some also take their children back to Africa.
Exactly. Some's done that. The children have come back, but some's come back. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say there's a specific way, but what I would say is find stimulating ways to educate and inspire your child. Children love to be stimulated.
That's true.
It's been proven, it's been tested. You know, invest in your children. You know, rather than some people, oh, I'm saving to his 30. Use that savings now to invest in the broaden his horizon. You know, take him places. You know, every weekend, make it your business to spend time and go to theme parks or museums or teach him about reading and open his mind up. Because by doing that, what you're going to do is you're going to show them that there's so many other options than to the ones that you're used to. And then he will have a broader, or she will have a broader option towards life. True. A different perspective. So if you do see your child going through that, I definitely feel like find ways to channel their energy. If you find your child very aggressive, put him in boxing. If he's very competitive, put him in a sport. You know, if he likes to talk, look for different type of debating workshops that are going on and get him enrolled into that. So wherever you see that his energy is, he's finding a lot of like some type of taking a liking to something. Develop on that and let him find that way to stimulate himself. And I believe that it's not going to automatically guarantee solve the problem, but it will definitely help.
Steps,
definitely help. And shed him with love. Shed him or her with love every day, consistently.
Grace and encouragement. It works for us, all of us.
100%.
If it does adults. You've written a book, Mr. Devine. What's the title of the book? The
book's called The Elements of Real Success.
I didn't get that.
The Elements of Real Success.
The Element of Real Success. Okay.
Subtitled From the Darkness into the Light. Okay. You can find it on Amazon, W.H. Smith, and the whole purpose is like I speak of the different elements I have found that make up success. And my personal journey was coming from a dark place into the light. For some others, it might be graduating, or it might be feeling ugly or a certain way and now feeling that they're beautiful, you know. That in itself is a success journey. Being in a place, one place that you don't necessarily want to be in, and driving yourself into a place that you do want to be in, full of happiness and joy. So I mean, it's an amazing book, and it also speaks about the journey of my life and the dark side I went through, the street life. So a lot of parents, it would really help them to understand what's going on with these young people's mind, and at the same time give them a insight to what's really going on. And for young people that find themselves in a situation, it also gives them alternative pathways and solutions. So I strongly urge you, you can find it, as I said, or you can go to my website, which is www.kissforlife.co.uk. That's www.kiss4life.co.uk. Or find me on social media, Devine Ampofo.
Thank you. Thank you, viewers. Thank you so very much for joining us today. The topic that we discussed today was on youth crime or gang culture. We looked at reasons why the youth join gangs and what are some of the signs and symptoms. Then when parents get to know that their youth are involved in crimes, how do we move forward? So thank you for joining us, and a special, massive, huge thank you to Mr. Devine Ampofo. We will have a second part of this conversation, but this is very important. Our children are our future. They are the reason why we're working and toiling. They are those that are going to succeed us. So what is the point in gaining all the wealth in the world and losing our children to gangs and knives and ending up in prison? You know, so let's invest in our children. Thank you for joining us once again. This is Abby, and you had time with me today on Real Chat TV. Thank you once again. Bye.